Hello and welcome to Her Next Step, the podcast where women in the public service talk about how their passion and their intuition led them to interesting and exciting career paths. We'll hear about the fears and challenges that could have held them back and about the internal and external supports that enabled them to take their next step. I'm Lily Murphy and I'm speaking to women whose stories will, I believe, inspire you to wonder what stepping stones would help you to take your next step. Rosaleen Wallace, I'm just delighted that you're here with us today on Her Next Step podcast with Susie McCanny in her studio on Wine Street in Sligo. Rosaleen, I've wanted to talk to you about your career for quite a while because when I first met you, you were the Station Manager in Westport, Irish Rail Station Manager. And I suppose it's shame on me, but I was a bit surprised that there was a woman in such a role. I would have always considered it very much a male role. So I'm just fascinated by how you ended up in that career, number one. And I know that you're now in corporate communications office of Iarnród Eireann. So we're going to talk a little bit about the highs and lows of your career and some of the supports that you've used to get you through the challenges that you faced. And some of the amazing upsides of being on the journey that you've been on. So thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Lily, for having me. It's a pleasure and thanks for the opportunity.
So Rosaleen, I'm going to start where I always start with the question, if I had stood in front of your peer group in school, in national school maybe, and in front of your family and said, somebody here will end up in corporate communications with Iarnród Eireann and will be the station manager of Westport train station, would they have automatically thought, oh, that'll be Rosaleen?
Probably not, Lily. I was very quiet. I was very quiet when I was young. I was youngest of six, so probably a bit spoiled as well. But
you thought you'd never have to go to work?
Probably did. And there was never any pressure put on me.
Okay.
Yeah, I was the youngest and there was never, but I have to say it about all of us in the school, a small national school outside Knock, County Mayo. That's where I grew up, and two-teacher school. And we're all from the same backgrounds. There was no great expectations on anybody. There was nobody trying to be better than anybody else, or we're all on a level playing field. So there was no ever big expectations or pressures put on you. But I was quiet, even though I always had friends and everything, but I would never put myself out there.
So what changed?
It took, all through secondary school as well, I was pretty quiet. I was always good. I never did anything wrong. And I couldn't say I loved studying, but I liked school. And again, there was no pressure on me at home.
But was there always an expectation that you would go to work?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Now, my mother was at home full-time with six of us, and there was also my granddad in the house. And my father worked for CIE, as it was known then. So he was working full-time. Those days it was 7 days a week. So he was, the only 2 weeks he had were during the summer, where it was always the bog and the hay. So they were his 2 weeks off.
Wow. Working holiday.
Yeah. So it was always expected, that you'd work. But what you did, it was up to yourself. Yeah, what would make you happy.
And did the older members of your family go to college or?
Yeah, my eldest brother, John, he became a guard. And then my brother, Tommy, he became an apprentice in CIE. So he went on to become an electrician. And then Magella went to college, primary school teacher, and Vincent went to college in Athlone, and then he did other courses as well in media and broadcasting before moving to America. And then Anne worked as a doctor's secretary in Knock for 40 years. She's just recently retired, actually. Yeah. And then myself.
And so when you left school, what did you go to college?
Well, I did. There's a little story about that. When I did my leaving cert, unfortunately, my dad got sick. So nobody told me I was sick until after. He was sick until after I did my leaving cert because, of course, I had exams and that. But unfortunately, he passed away the week after I got my Leaving Cert results. And I did get an offer of a course in the RTC, it was known then in Galway. It was business with secretarial and a foreign language. So it was quite a good course. And so I'd never been away from home before. And me being quiet and kind of anxious, I went up, I started for a week. People to laugh. So a week, and I went to the guidance counsellor in the college, and I just was crying every day, and it was probably grief as well. And so they said, listen, you can defer it for a year. So then I went back to Ballyhonus Community School and did the secretarial course. That was my plan. I'll do that for the year that I'm off. And again, poor Mammy, she didn't mind a bit. There was no pressure. Oh, you have to stay there now after everything. And I had a great time in that year in Ballyhonus. And I love typing.
Okay.
I was good. I have to say I was very good at typing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we used to do a bit of business, and we learned how to drive. We did driving lessons. So then, of course, it came to the time to go back to college again. So I still wasn't ready. And then I got a little job. It was a dry cleaners. Oh, they were lovely people, but oh my God, I really did not like that role at all. And then, unfortunately, my mother got sick. So I took time away again. So I looked after her. Not that she wasn't bedridden or anything, thank God, up until she passed away. Again, it was cancer. So I stayed at home with her that year then. And
during any of that, did you have any grief support with your grief? That was a lot to have to deal with as a young one.
Not really. I suppose we were all going through it at the same time. My sisters and brothers, they had their own families. They were young. They had young families at the time. So, but they were all good. Our neighbours were very good. It's like a dream at times that it ever happened. When during Mammy's illness, I got a job in Baxter Healthcare. That was 1993, July, 6 months before she passed away. And I had started there, and I was staying with my sister and her husband, and coming home, helping to look after Mammy in between.
And what was that role in Baxter?
I started off with production, in the production line. I made some great friends there, actually, and I spent 8 happy years there, I have to say. And I moved on then from the production line, and then I moved into one of the office admin areas, where the main function was purchasing for a department. And then I moved into the documentation area for proofreading, foreign languages and typesetting.
So you said you moved into these areas. I'm assuming you didn't just say one day, I'm going to move into another job. So was that because somebody offered you a new role, or how did that come about?
Well, I know for the office position, you had to sit an exam, an internal. It was a private company, Baxter Healthcare. So you had to apply for the job, went up on the board, and then you applied for it, and then you had to sit an exam. So yeah, that's how I got into that. Yeah. No, it wasn't that.
So you earned
I'm
the right.
myself.
You
Yes.
are indeed.
Yeah.
You earned the right to move into new roles.
Absolutely.
And the language bit is interesting because you had learned languages at school. Did you have to do anything additional in order to write product specifications?
No, because it was all there ahead of us. All you had to do was type it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't need to know any language.
Okay.
Or understand it, because we'd proofread it after. And there was our own special method of proofreading, but it was always 100%, yeah. Yeah. Then I was 8 years with Baxter, and then I just felt, well, I'm in this role now 8 years. I was 28 at the time. And I remember meeting, she was a friend of mine in Westport. She worked for Irish Rail. And we were out at a disco course one night, and she said, Rosaleen, I'm moving to Galway. She said, I said, oh no. She said, well, she said, I have an offer to do a placement in Galway to cover maternity leave. And I went home that night and I just said, gosh, I said, God, that sounds nice. Because I always wanted to live in Westport or work in Westport. I loved Westport. And so I rang her up and I said, have you anyone, who's going doing your job? She said, there's nobody yet at the moment. And she said, why are you interested? She said, it's only for 3 months. And I don't know, did Daddy speak to me from above or whatever? But I just said, because I wouldn't be a risk taker. And I said, yeah. I said, do you mind asking? And Elliot was the station manager. I said, Jerry Glynn, who happened to be my own late father's boss as well. He was the district manager still at that time. I said, do you mind asking them? So I was called in for an interview. And yeah, that's how I started.
So it was an unusual thing to do, to leave a job.
Oh, full-time job.
Full-time
with
job.
Benefits. Yeah.
And move into something
and
for
pension.
3 months. Wow, Rosaleen.
Yeah.
And what do you think was behind that? What was motivating you?
I don't know. Like, because I was still young. Probably. And I don't know why I didn't have the confidence myself. I could have gone into HR and said anything else for me here in Baxter, or I'd like to progress here, but that was down to myself. I didn't do that. I don't know. I did to say it was Daddy.
Mm-hmm.
Just led me to
But some
to
of it
Irish
was
Rail.
also about it was Westport. And there was
Westport was a draw as well, yes.
Yes. Was there a
And
particular
I loved
interest in
meeting,
Westport beyond?
No, not at the time.
It was just that you loved the town.
Yes, yeah. And it was only meant to be for 3 months. And 22 years later,
Wow.
here I am. So I started off in a clerical role. And Anne was the station manager then. As you mentioned earlier, there were not many females at the time. There was maybe 5 female station managers in Ireland. But that was still not even remotely in my head that one day I'll be a station manager. And I was happy. I loved meeting the people, the passengers.
And what was your role?
Clerical officer.
So how would you get to meet the passengers if you're in a clerical officer role?
Because we'd also be the booking office.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like one size fits all.
Yeah.
So you'd open up the ticket office when the trains were ready to depart. And so you'd be meeting passengers and they'd be knocking on the door as well. And the phone calls, because there was one number for everything.
Yeah.
It was all the phone then. There was no internet that you could look up irishrail.ie. Everything. The phone used to be hopping from the minute you go in. All the level crossings were open then as well at the time for the trains. So when I started there were over 53 people working.
In Westport?
Between Westport, Castlebar and Manilla Junction. Yeah, there was still a signal cabin out Manilla Junction at the time. So Anne had that area and everything in between to cover.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was huge.
So how long did you stay in the clerical officer role?
About 16 years. And retired then.
So at some point did you get made permanent, or
I got made permanent 2 years after I started.
Okay, yeah.
Then I did a diploma whilst there. We have a scheme through the public service, through the Irish Rail, a Jewish scheme it's called. It was Diploma in Management and Employee Relations in the National College of Ireland. But they did it in Castlebar in the RTC there. Mm-hmm. So I did that for 2 years. That was between 2001 and 2003.
And was that the beginning of a kind of inkling that you might want to go into management?
Yes, because when Anne was off on holidays, I'd often have to step in, even though it might only be for a week or two. But I felt I need to know a bit more how to manage situations and manage people if conflict occurs and, stand on my own 2 feet a little bit more. Learn more about leadership and industrial relations issues, all that sort of thing. So, yeah, it was a great course, I have to say.
I did it myself, actually.
Did you? Yeah.
I did it here in Sligo. Yeah, it was a great course.
It was a great course. And again, I met lovely people through that. So luckily that was 50% of that was paid for. So I was very lucky in that regard. Fast forward, I think I'd be jumping up a bit, Lily, so stop me at any time.
Right.
When Anne retired then, the opportunity came for me to step into her role when she left. And I have to say I found that challenging because I went from working with 22 guys at the station, working with them, having crack every day. I didn't ever have to deal with any issues that may arise or rostering issues, anything. I could just go home. So it was a challenge going into that role because I thought everything would stay the same. But of course...
It is, like you and everybody else who steps into management, it's one of the biggest shocks I think that people get.
Yeah.
Is that transition, and suddenly you go from being a friend and a peer to being the person in charge.
Absolutely.
And everything changes, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Especially when so many of your colleagues live close by, may have children going to the same activities. And yeah, it was a challenge. Yeah. But I had fantastic support from my managers and other colleagues, station managers throughout the network that I could always pick up the phone to and ask advice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just from my curiosity, because I would have a notion, what does that job entail, being the station manager? Like, what are the kind of things that you're responsible for?
Safety would be the first thing. It's a safety critical role. So your main thing is to make sure passengers, staff, everyone in contractors, that everyone is safe, that everything is in a safe environment. So like when I first took on the role, you sign safety responsibility statement. You know, it's legislation that part of your responsibility is that you're helping to ensure that all your staff are competent, that they remain competent. So you're looking at that they have their safety protective gear, that the passengers are safe, that anything that's not safe is reported straight away, that your contractors on site, that they have all their method statements, permits to work. We also have freight, timber lorries. So you're looking after all that.
So it's a logistics job and a safety job. Yeah.
You're a counsellor. You have to look after the welfare of all your staff. You have issues, maybe there might be industrial relations issues, passenger sales. You're dealing with every department. So it was fantastic. Like it's an area you can bring everywhere.
Yeah.
Like it's a fantastic educational.
Because you've got
learning.
all those management skills that could simply transfer to another area.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. And I'm so glad now I took it on.
Really?
At the time, I thought, what have I done? But I've learned so much from it.
Yeah.
You know, it's an invaluable experience.
Rosaleen, say the health and safety responsibility. How did you equip yourself to be able to sign that safety statement? I mean, did you have to, was there further training and...
Yeah, you're always trained. There's, gosh, I don't know how many courses you do annually on safety critical, like incident officer. You'd have your personal track safety. You'd have your annual rules exam. You're always kept up to date by the safety officers. We have a fantastic safety team in Irish Rail. You're audited. So you're well equipped with the documentation and the teaching that you have. And then I also did a course in UCD, Occupational Health and Safety. That was 1 year course. That was fantastic as well.
Yeah, it requires quite a level of commitment to yourself and your career to be continuing to do courses. Was that challenging?
It was when the boys were younger. But
so we've skipped a whole bit of the boys' arrival.
But did I forget to mention that? I got married along the way.
Was he a Westport man by any chance?
No, Clifton man.
Right.
Yeah.
But you brought him to Westport.
I met him when I was 21.
Okay.
So after a few false starts, we eventually got married in 2000 and met him in 1994. So we got married in 2005.
Oh, you took your time.
So we did. There was a few offs and ons in between. And then our first boy was born in 2008. And the second boy was born in 2011.
Wow.
So I was lucky. Marty worked in the construction industry, but then when the boom burst, is that how you'd say it? He lost his job there, but he got working then in Baxter Healthcare. So I suppose he really worked around me, really, which gave me a lot of opportunity to further my education. So I have to thank him for that.
Yeah.
I'll give out about him a lot. But I have to thank him for that.
It's public airways now. Be careful.
Yeah, he was very good. Okay. So he works now, he was working weekend nights, and so he was at home all week with the boys. And then now he works the evenings. So again, it gives me freedom to, if I have to travel for work or anything.
Okay.
I have that freedom.
Yeah. Those years then in that management role, station manager role, apart from that first challenge of, well, that continuing challenge presumably of managing the people who were formerly your peers, were there other challenges for you as a manager and as a woman?
No, I have to say, as a woman, I could never say I was treated any differently. I was treated just the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I have to say it. I have to say, for such a male-dominated environment, I could never say. Now, I grew up in the late 70s and 80s where, I let a lot of things over my head. So even if things were being said, I probably wouldn't pass any heed.
Okay, yes.
I wouldn't be sensitive that way at all.
Yeah.
I'd be sensitive in other ways. But not in that. No, I'd always take that with a pinch of salt if anyone said, "Good girl, Lar." Good girl, Lynn. I never.
You thought that was a compliment. Yeah.
Especially now if someone said, "Good girl, Lynn."
So you did that health and safety course, Rosaleen. I think you had done something else in railway management. Am I right?
Oh, yes, that's right. I'd done the certificate in railway operations management. Again, that was done through from working with Iarnród Eireann, and it was another fantastic, opportunity. So I learned a lot from that also. And again, met some great people from different departments, different areas, great mentors.
Really?
So, fantastic.
It strikes me that every one of these interviews that I've done, people talk about those networks that they created during, when they were doing training or when they were doing courses, and inevitably some great friendships arose out of those.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. From all over Ireland.
Yeah.
I could pick up the phone now to so many people if I needed help or guidance, or likewise, I hope they do the same if I could help them in any way.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Was that locally based training then, or did you have to travel for that also?
We only had to travel to Dublin a few times during the year.
Okay. And while you were doing that, were you doing it on your own, or were there other people around you, say in Westport? Or
No, I was doing that on my own.
And Rosaleen, it strikes me you were a young mother with two boys while you were doing this.
I suppose most of my friends at that stage had done their college years in their late teens, early 20s. It was just the circumstances that I was in. I didn't do it until much later.
Yeah.
So I would advise anyone, if you can do it, it is easier to do it when you're young, free and single. In my case anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is difficult. When
but
you
there's
have
still
children.
a value, isn't there, in going back to education when you've actually gained experience in the workplace and you understand some of the...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like when
you're bringing real life experience to your college course, aren't you?
You are. And I have to say it was something I read in lately, and it relates to me, is tell me and I forget. Show me and I remember, but involve me and I understand. And that rings so true for me.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm involved, I learn so much quicker. I learn so much more on the job by being involved.
It's why apprenticeship education works so well, isn't it? Where
really
people
does.
are actually, you know, they're not just learning the theory, they're actually seeing it in operation on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that doesn't apply to everything, like doctors or anything. You just can't go in and say, here, give me that scissor and scalpel, and I'll do it a few times after you do it. Show me. But yeah, definitely in the role I'm in, or have been in, being involved in it has been a great teaching for me. Yeah.
And I'm curious again, this is probably my curiosity, my ignorance in a sense, but in the workforce in Irish Rail, Iarnród Eireann, is that a largely male workforce entirely, or are there lots of women scattered around in different jobs that I'm not aware of?
There are a lot of women, and but there are a lot more men. But that's all changing. I can see it in the last 3 or 4 years with the encouraging. If you see for the apprenticeship scheme, for example, like there's so many young girls now joining the apprenticeships, and it's fantastic to see. And female train drivers.
Okay.
In the last 2 or 3 years, huge increase. Yeah, and more.
And what other kind of roles do they?
Engineers. Yeah. And we've a lot of graduates coming in now, female graduates, environmental, capital investments. Yeah. There's no job now in there that you couldn't say a woman cannot do.
And is it easy for women to get? I'm just thinking of people who might be listening.
Oh yeah, It's only yourself that will stop you from applying.
Okay.
Because the opportunities are there.
And a great organisation to work for.
Fantastic organisation to work for. Yeah, it's over 4,000 now, and it's amazing. It was the best move. It was the best risk I ever took. Yeah.
Leaving a full-time job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So tell me, so you were in that management role for a good number of years, and now you're in corporate communications. So how did that transition happen?
Well, I remember a few years ago, before I was ever a station manager, an opportunity arose in the company where you could go for a day and see how someone worked in another department. So I just thought, oh gosh, the communications, that sounds good to me. And in my younger days, when I was small and there wasn't, I used to have aspirations that I may be a DJ. on a Sunday, I used to be pressing the tape. Who used to be on? Lorcan Murray and Jim O'Neill. They were the guys in the day. Vincent Hanley on MTUSA.
Yes.
And I thought communications. I said, right. And Barry Kinney was holding the day up in Conley. So I said, I'll go up to that. Oh, I had a great day. I thought this is brilliant. And learned all about what he did behind the scenes, how many people he had to deal with, crisis management, strategy. And I thought, that's lovely. But I went home again. I thought, well, that's in Dublin. I said, I'm not moving. I won't be moving to Dublin. So I put it to the back of my mind again. But then one good thing that came out of COVID was that people found out that you didn't have to be based in the big cities, that you didn't have to be working. A lot of people were working remotely, and, you could maybe commute once a month or once a week and do your Teams calls. You didn't have to be in the office all the time. So I had engaged in, by that stage, I think with yourself at that stage, And then the talent management in Irish Rail, Ida Linnard was fantastic help to me. And all the team there are brilliant. And she said, what are you interested in? Communications. And she said, look up courses there and see. So I saw one through the Public Relations Institute of Ireland. It was a diploma in communications. And so I asked Barry, I said, Barry, do you think this would be a good course? Would you recommend this course? And he said, yeah, absolutely. So I did that then. And then after that, I contacted Ida again in the talent management. I said, if ever there's any opportunity that I can help with a project or anything that's coming up in communications, you know, can you keep me in mind? And then an opportunity did arise. We saw it was in it's called a circular. It's like an internal, which has all the weekly content for the network in it. So there's also a section in it for advertisements for jobs internally. So I saw an advertisement there to cover maternity leave. So I did the interview, and luckily I'm now in that position in secondment covering the maternity leave and
in PR and communications.
PR and communications.
Wow.
And I love it.
Do you?
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah.
Do you get to exercise your DJ voice? And
not yet. But they do know I love music. Yeah. So I've learned so much in the year. I've emceed at events which I thought I'd never do, standing up in front of
this quiet little girl from National School.
I'm helping now with the Rail Brief. It's our Christmas publication. It's internal again. It's a magazine that comes out. And I'm working with projects, working with events. I'm using the contacts I know through the network that I've known through the years, you know, because you're looking for stories, you're looking for interesting things that are happening through the network and getting messages out to the people. Yeah. So it's easier to get a message across to people when you know a lot of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what will interest them and
how to engage them. And how to engage with them. So I love that.
Rosaleen, so I know you did some career coaching. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So I didn't fully understand what the IE talent management did at the time. I didn't realise that they offered a coaching service because it was so new. And I didn't ask, so that was my own fault.
And so what's their function? What is the talent management programme?
So they're a fantastic team of lads and ladies. If I was working in a role now, a different role to now, and I wanted to progress in my career, and they will help you, they will guide you, they will get you coaching. They actually engaged me. I did the Women in Leadership programme through those ladies, and that was another course I did.
Yeah.
And they're there for everybody. Anybody working in Iarnród Eireann, I would advise them. Isn't
that quite amazing to have that service within an organisation?
Fantastic.
So essentially their message is, if you have ambition and if you're interested in progressing your career,
engage
we're here to support you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
And they're also involved with a lot of the graduates that come in and work with Iarnród Eireann as well.
To ensure that they find their niche within the organisation.
Yes, they recruit the graduates. They go to all the graduate fairs.
Gosh. And so within that you used coaching service. I suppose, you know, obviously my work is
fantastic.
coaching.
Oh, you were brilliant, Lily.
But I'm just curious, you know, for people who don't understand what coaching is, what would you say? How would you describe it?
Well, I find it leads you on the right path to where you want to go. So you might be on the right path already, but not know it.
Yes.
But you just need that assurance to talk to somebody like yourself or the talent management team. somebody who mightn't know you that well, and that can just look at what you have, what you can do, how they can help you.
So they don't have preconceived notions about who you are
Exactly.
or which box you fit into.
Exactly.
So they
Yeah.
can see that bigger picture for you.
Yes. And non-judgmental.
Yeah. And are you saying that's a service that's available to everybody in Irish Rail?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Gosh. Do they know? Does everybody know? I'm just curious because I don't believe that that's the case in all organisations, and I'm just amazed that it's available.
It is available. I'm not too sure. Does everyone know? Again, this is something
You
I'd
in
have
your
to
PR role.
my PR role. I can encourage and advertise it. Yeah. But it definitely is there for everybody.
If I asked you, were you ambitious? How would you answer that question?
I would have said no, but I think I must be behind it all. Yeah. Yeah.
And what
Because
do you-
my sister's are you doing another course? And because I like short courses. I like things that you can do I like project-based courses.
But what I think about what you're saying is that you like to be able to apply the learning from those courses.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. They have to be relevant to what I'm doing.
Then. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the definition of adult education is that essentially that it provides people with the skills and knowledge that they need for you know, the current situation.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is that ambition now? Would you say, you know, so yes, you are ambitious. Ambitious for what?
I'm ambitious to learn more, to become excellent in communications, to progress in this role and stay in this role the rest of my career, if I could.
Yeah.
So I think
And what difference?
I found my calling.
Have you?
Yeah, even though I love my job, whatever I do in Iarnród Eireann, I'll be happy with. But this is really my goal.
Isn't it amazing that we expect young people to know what their calling is at an early stage, when in reality it often does take quite a long time in your career, doesn't it, before you find...
It took me a long time.
Yeah.
I'm 50 now. I'll be 51 in January.
Yeah. Yeah, but
I'm late to the party. But it's not too late for any lady around the same age group as myself.
to find something new or to...
Just talk, just pick up the phone. Don't email. Pick up the phone or ask, can you meet them? Yeah. Whoever you want to talk to, whatever department you feel you'd like to move into.
Do you really think people are that receptive? That if you kind of have an inkling that you'd love to work in a particular department and that you could ring them up and say, could I come and talk to you?
Oh, yeah.
You do?
I do. But they should be, if they're not.
And can I ask you one other question? So if you were in this PR role for the rest of your career, what's the difference you'd like to make? Or how would you, you know, what would be different as a result of you being in that role?
Well, I like to think, no, it's an excellent department as it is. They do a fantastic job. So the learning I'll get is from them. But what I would like to bring to the table is that I would know a lot of people on the ground and that I can encourage them to engage more with us and to open up to us, that we can spread their message. And that's what I'd like to do.
You've just done an interview now for your new job. No, I'm only joking. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because there is that thing of what you can bring to any part of the organisation, in a sense, whoever you are, that you bring that skill and talent. But what you're saying is you also bring that understanding of who the workers are, who the people are on the ground and what they might want to hear. And
absolutely. What they want to know, what they might know already that I can share with them.
Yeah.
A lot of people of my cohort and older, like there's a huge part of the company that are 45 to 65. They're still not involved in the digital age, nor do they want to be. But we're working on that at the moment to encourage everyone, because there's so much that they are missing out on that is digital.
Yeah.
And just to encourage them, there's no fear involved in it, you know. Big Brother isn't watching you.
Yeah.
If you log on. Yeah.
We have come to take for granted an awful lot that people are comfortable with.
Yeah, and they're not, especially people who are working outdoors and that, because you don't need to use technology when you're working on the ground. You just need your phone. You don't need anything else.
So the future, ideally, is in corporate communications.
That should be the ideal, yes. Yeah.
Or alternatively,
I'll go back to my
station manager.
The station manager role in Westport, which is also very good.
Yeah. And Rosaleen, you know, there's people listening to this podcast, both young people coming through college and women who are maybe in the workforce, as you say, your cohort of women in the workforce. What advice would you want to give people?
This is for my cohort now. The advice is it's never too late. And if you're young and thinking about it, I'd say I can't recommend Iarnród Eireann highly enough for that, because you can become an apprentice. You can start as a customer service operative. You can be a train driver. You can be an engineer. And then you can follow through with your education through that.
Yeah.
You can travel the world. You can... The
It
world is
offers
your oyster.
huge opportunities.
Huge opportunities. And for anyone my age already in Iarnród Eireann that thinks that they cannot move from their department, or they can.
By engaging with talent management.
Or speaking with their own line manager first and seeing what he or she says, and they'll steer them in the right direction also. Yeah.
How have you changed from that little girl, that little quiet girl in school, you know, in national school? What would you consider are the biggest kind of ways that you personally have changed, not just professionally?
Oh, definitely I'm more confident. Yeah, it took a long time, but I am more confident now. I wouldn't be afraid to ask questions. Not afraid to say, I don't know how to do this. Can you teach me? I'm not as anxious as I used to be. I'm not as fearful of what if I say this, or what will someone... I was a big person of what if they don't like me? Now I still fight that feeling. What if? But I've come to realise that no matter what you do, not everyone will like you. No matter what you do. And you just have to come to terms with that. And just try, and I always try. I never try to offend anyone, or I always try to help anyone. So I've come to realise that I'm fine being me.
What an amazing place to finish an interview. How wonderful it would be if we could all come to accept who we are. And that's a bit of a lifetime's journey, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I wouldn't be able to say that even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Took me a long time.
Well, Rosaleen, it's just been a joy to talk to you and to learn about Irish Rail, about Iarnród Eireann rather, and your journey through it. And thank you so much for being an interviewee on Her Next Step.
Oh, and thank you, Lily. I can't believe I've actually done a podcast. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. If you've enjoyed today's show, do like and share the podcast. If you'd like to hear more interviews with smart, ambitious, passionate women in the public service, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. We welcome positive feedback and suggestions for future guests you'd like to hear from. Meantime, goodbye from me, Lily Murphy, and all the team at Her Next Step. Remember to look for the stepping stone that will support your next step, or consider how you could be the stepping stone for somebody else.